Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Miller, your host, and we are so excited about this episode of Future Foodcast. I want to thank our sponsor, Farm to Plate. They are creating tomorrow's food business ecosystem today. You can find out more at farmtoplate.io. I can't wait to talk to somebody from the UK. You know, I'm here in the US. We do have listeners, I realize, all across the globe. So welcome, everyone. Today, we have Catherine Hinchcliffe. She is the head of marketing and insight for Bidfood UK. Welcome to the podcast, Catherine.
Thanks very much, Pam. Very excited to be here.
We are so excited to have you because you are going to give us some great insights today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Bidfood?
Bidfood are a food service wholesaler in the UK. We supply caterers right across the piece, everyone from hotels, pubs, restaurants, schools, care homes, hospitals, travel and leisure. So a wide range of customers, all of whom are serving consumers food out of home.
Yes, well, that is a great service that is much needed. I know looking at your website, you just have really across the board customers. You cover a very wide variety of customers, but you also do something fun I really want to dive into during this episode, which is a report about trends that are happening. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it got started and what you do?
Yeah, so Bidfood have been producing a out-of-home food and drink trends report since 2014 every year, and it's one of the most fun campaigns, I have to say, because food and drink are very close to our hearts. We're very passionate about those. I mean, it takes around about 6 months to put together, from the research right through to the kind of marketing campaign behind it. And involves lots of different people across our business, including our chef team as well, who produce recipes that fit some of the trends. So we're quite excited to have just launched the food and drink trends for 2024. We do collaborate with researchers for this. So this time around, the last couple of years, we've been working with CGA by Nielsen IQ. And that means that the report's based on our own kind of bespoke research, so that and it's focused on out of home and it's UK specific.
Yes, and that doing that third-party research really allows you to drive that content and find out the things that you really want to find out, and then you own that and can report on that. That's good for our listeners to know as well, that some of these, you know, they're independently verified as far as a lot of the research. But I know you do some informal research as well. I'm sure because you're in the market, you're in the UK, you're with the people, so you see some of the things that are going on as well.
We do. I mean, we do a lot of desk research as well. We look at the social trends underpinning the food and drink trends. We go out and about on the streets of some of the big cities to see how they're manifesting on the high street. It's a lot of fun and very useful because it helps our customers shape their menus.
Yeah, it does sound like a lot of fun. I think of those man in the street interviews where you just stop and chat with people or diners out on the patio or whatever it might be, and find out what they're doing and why they like what they like and what they're looking forward to. Well, tell us a little bit about the report for 2024 and some of the interesting insights you've uncovered.
So, yeah, the report for 2024 points to kind of 5 main trends and a number of sub-trends. At the moment in the UK, the market's kind of coming out of the post-pandemic, and there are a few kind of key factors really shaping consumer choices right now. And of course, value for money, because purse strings are tight at the moment, is one of the main factors driving that. But people are also wanting to try something new. About 2/3 of consumers are kind of eating out to treat themselves. And despite the challenging economic conditions we're all facing, still nearly half of UK consumers claim to eat out of home at least once a week. But they're wanting to treat themselves, they're wanting to celebrate special occasions. And so trying something new, new flavors and cuisines. Particularly, they're looking for something that's authentic and are happy to pay more for that. And they're looking for sustainable solutions. Particularly, we're finding provenance is very much on the menu. And people are anything with ingredients that have provenance, they're happy to pay more for, and they're quite keen on. But then again, health is very much at the heart of consumer choice at the moment, as is kind of something a little bit different, something that piques their curiosity and their imagination.
Yeah, I think just trying something new kind of goes along with something different and unique that piques your imagination. You want to try that. I'm wondering, do you have an idea about once a week? That's a little higher than I expected, that people are eating out at least once a week. I mean, probably some more, but especially with the economical situation and the coming out of the pandemic. Do you know what it was before the pandemic by any chance? Like, is that more or less than people have traditionally been eating out in the UK?
So I think quite a lot, the same number of people are eating out compared with kind of pre-pandemic. It's just the frequency with which they're eating out and the repeated visits is kind of under pressure a bit at the moment. But still, people are kind of eating out when they're on the go. Lunch occasions we're seeing are doing very well. Dinner occasions a little bit less so, but people, it's kind of ingrained in our culture now to kind of eat out of home on the go.
I'm glad to hear that people are eating out and are trying new things. That's an exciting trend to have confirmed, and that creative ideas are also in the mix. So that's great. What else did you find, Catherine?
Well, I mean, definitely the trends that have kind of surfaced this year are ones that are great from a chef point of view, because they do lend themselves to a lot of creativity and give chefs the opportunity to show their flair. So the kind of 5 key trends that we picked up this year: flavors less traveled, and that's the kind of, we don't really change that year on year. That's what are the cuisines that people are really interested in. And the ones that seem to be emerging in the UK at the moment are authentic Mexican. I mentioned authenticity is quite important to consumers. When they kind of go out on holiday and try interesting and new cuisines, they want to try them again when they get home, but they kind of want the real deal, kind of what they tried when they were on holiday. And people are traveling a bit more. So authentic Mexican, authentic Caribbean and Eastern European are very much of interest and appeal to consumers right now. Nice. Mind, mood and body. So that's what people are interested in from a health perspective. And they're taking a bit more of a holistic approach now. So they want kind of foods that are going to nourish their mental well-being and kind of give them a mood lift as much as they are foods that they feel will nourish their body. So mind, mood and body is another trend.
Well, I think in that mind, mood and body area, I'm sure you've seen in the UK, as we have in the United States, people are just much more aware of themselves. I think during the pandemic, there was a lot of reflection in the health area, and people are really taking the time to do what's better for them in this, so I'm not surprised that's a big trend, I think. And I just hear about it more, that people are talking about, self-care a lot more, and they're wanting to, practice taking care of their mind and being cognizant of what's happening with their bodies and feeding themselves well, with the foods that are better for them.
That's very true. I mean, about 2/3 of UK adults feel that it's important that the food they eat out of home is healthy, and they like brands and operators that help them achieve that. But I remember when I first came into this industry, probably about 18 years ago, people were quite happy to be healthy Monday to Thursday, but they wanted to sort of throw that out of the window at the weekend. Now, I think especially coming out of the pandemic, it's a lot more ingrained that we really need to look after ourselves a lot more. but
Yeah.
not just our physical health, our mental well-being as well. And people are looking to, you know, their food and drink choices to support them in achieving that.
Yes, exactly. I really agree with you, Catherine. I've seen that as well. I'm not surprised to see that your research found that.
The other key trends we're picking up on, I mentioned flavours less travel, but British fusion is also quite a key trend. So people are wanting to combine the comfort of their kind of favourite British recipes with trying a little bit a few flavours from around the world, but kind of in familiar formats. So if you're not prepared to try something completely different, it gives you that kind of slightly easier, more accessible option, if you like. So dishes like the traditional British roast, but with pepped up with flavours from around the world, or kind of sausage rolls that are kind of, or pies that have, you know, more exotic ingredients in them. And then the let's play trend is also quite a key one that's coming up. We've seen that experiential venues in the past have been quite popular, but now people are more interested in trying something a little bit different, something a bit new, something a bit more playful in the actual food and drink that they're taking. So flavour contrasts, things like miso and chocolate, or feta and watermelon, or salted caramel's been around for a little while, but kind of pear and Stilton. Those kind of interesting flavour combinations are becoming more popular.
The flavor combinations just struck me as, because you were talking about when people go out, they want to try something new and be a little investigative, you know, and try and have new things that, and seems like this flavor combination would be a great answer to that. Oh yeah, let me try this combination that's really different and new, and I've never tried that before. And interesting combinations you've mentioned as well that I wouldn't think about putting together.
Yeah, well, we did actually ask consumers which were the flavour combinations that have most appeal. Unsurprisingly, sweet and sour tops the list, but then you've got sweet and spicy. So we're seeing things like honey mixed with chili, or hot honey as we call it, as a drizzle on things, and then sweet mixed with salty, so it's kind of sweet flavors that are leading it, but then kind of spicy and sour, salty and sour come up as well. But it gives chefs just a lot of scope to play with flavors, and I think consumers enjoy that playfulness. But playful drinks as well. Cocktails have been really growing in the UK. And a lot of places have got their own signature cocktails now. I mean, people, I think, when they were, you know, kind of locked in the pandemic, were experimenting with their own cocktails. So they are looking for cocktails that really kind of deliver, and they're kind of happy to pay more for a high quality cocktail. But drinks that are a little bit more playful, or are interesting visually to look at, are great from a social media point of view, and also great if you're an operator, because, you know, people will make their choices impulsively, and they'll see something on the menu they fancy, the customer, and so it's a great opportunity for operators to really make those drinks look fantastic. And we are seeing sparklers, smoke, colour changes, all sorts of beautiful themed presentations, drinks that tell a bit of a story as well as taste great. And that's another opportunity to, you know, kind of ramp up the GP a little bit and encourage spend.
Yes, because I was thinking just add a piece of fruit to the side of the glass, Catherine, but you have delved into lots of other possibilities that are very interesting that I haven't even thought of, with different effects that people can enjoy. And as far as the spend, they will spend more for an experiential type drink, or something different, or with a story, or, you know, the special menu with unique drinks on it. I mean, those are not usually priced with the, you know, regular drinks. They're a higher price, so that's a bigger ticket for the restaurants as well.
It's all about encouraging spend, and it's not just drinks. I mean, when we were looking at, you know, what restaurants are actually doing to bring some of these trends to life. We went to a restaurant in North London and they were using dry ice for their desserts. The desserts looked like flower pots with flowers and soil, fruit trays with dry ice, all sorts of really visually appealing dishes, desserts especially. And it's not really surprising, because if people are wanting to eat out because it's a treat or to celebrate a special occasion, then, you know, that's the kind of experience that they're looking for.
Absolutely. And I hadn't thought about kind of a scene with your food that fits a theme, but that's really creative. Thanks for sharing that with us. I might have to try some of those things even at home. Just think creatively. I'm one that if it gets on the plate, I'm good. My husband is much more creative. If he's going to serve something, it is always visually appealing. I'm more functional. So it's nice to know people are out there thinking about creative scenes with the food, and I might have to spend some money on that.
Well, it's all about eating something out that you're not necessarily going to make yourself at home, isn't it? So
yeah, no, yeah. I'm not really. I said that, but I'm not going to do it at home. I'm going to go out and have it.
Does your husband really get the dry ice out when he's making pudding at home, or?
No, not at all. No, that's definitely beyond what we have ever thought about. So you're opening up my some opportunities for sure, Catherine. I'm sure our listeners are having the same experience.
The last trend on the list I haven't mentioned is rustic and rural, which I think is probably one quite relevant to the sponsors here today. And that's all, really the backbone of that trend is all about provenance. Provenance is about 3/4 of consumers in the UK certainly find dishes with British provenance appealing, kind of with ingredients that you can trace back to the locality, the region, or simply British ingredients, and half of them would pay more for that, because quality and freshness are the kind of cues they take when they're looking at a dish or ingredients that have some kind of provenance. And so that trend is all about it's about farm to plate, farm to fork. It's about artisanal cooking styles straight out of the oven, garden salads, heritage ingredients, heritage tomatoes, for example. All of those kind of cues, and the decor as well, you know, looking, you know, with more natural kind of products, wood, you know, a bit of straw, so that even if you're sitting and dining in an urban city centre, you can feel like you're kind of enjoying your dinner in the countryside.
Absolutely. And closer to the food. You know, that is a consumer trend I've seen here on Future Foodcast that goes right along with that category in your trend report for 2024, that consumers do want to know where their food is from, and the more locally sourced, the better they like it seems. So going along with the fresh foods and the familiar flavors, the things that can be grown in the nearby area generally, consumers are really excited about that. Not only that, it kind of goes along with that health area where people want to be cleaner in the food that they eat. And some of these locally sourced, locally grown foods are just fill that bill for sure. I mean, and consumers, it is definitely something I've seen as well, obviously confirmed by your research.
Yeah, it is about the ingredients and where they're from, but it's also about how you present those ingredients, and how you make them look authentic to the places they're from, and the setting in which you're kind of serving them as well.
Yeah, really, I hear you speaking about the experience of going out and having this food. It's really a total experience, not just the food, but also the surrounding and how it's set up and presented.
Very much so, very much so.
Very nice. Are there other things from the trend report you would like to share with us today? Because, wow, there's some very interesting categories in there.
Yeah, I think one of the areas that really fascinates people is the flavors less traveled, and as I mentioned, it's really authenticity of those. So if you take Mexican, for example, everyone's very familiar with nachos and burritos and fajitas. But there's so much more to the Mexican cuisine than that. And people are really interested in getting to grips with a wider range of dishes, you know, tacos al pastor, some of the corn dishes, elotes, and the kind of corn salads you get in Mexican cuisine. And the same with Caribbean. Caribbean's one of my favorites, actually. Jerk chicken is almost ubiquitous now, is it not?
Yeah.
But there's so much more to Caribbean cuisine. It's a very diverse community of countries, really, and each country has a different national dish. But very much, I think one of the things linking Mexican and Caribbean and Eastern European actually is that they're all very good at comfort foods. So you have within Caribbean a lot of kind of comforting, curried kind of stews. And the same really with Eastern European food. A lot of those dishes are kind of comfort foods and stews, you know, ingredients that are a little bit more familiar to the British palate, and a little bit less spicy than Caribbean sometimes. But I think they have that in common. And when you're kind of facing tough economic conditions out there and people are kind of pulling in their horns and tightening their purse strings, comfort foods are always going to be popular. Caribbean is such a rich, diverse culinary heritage, isn't it? At the weekend, I was trying out a particular recipe, Jamaican rundown, I think, which is also quite popular in Tobago. I don't know if you've tried that. A fish dish with coconut milk, which gives it a lovely kind of runny, but very flavoursome sauce because you're adding in lots of Creole spices. But some of those are just delicious, kind of warm and flavoursome, kind of comfort dishes as well. And of course, you've got patties and you've got all sorts of other snack foods and a great heritage of wonderful cakes and desserts in the Caribbean. But I think, you know, there is so much across those three cuisines that works really well for lunches, for snacking, for dinner, from a desserts point of view. They can work really in any context, not just in restaurants, but they kind of, the formats as well are pretty useful if you're working as a contract caterer in a workplace setting, or if you're looking to do something in schools, actually in secondary schools. Some of those interesting flavors are, you know, what young people look out for.
Right. Well, and the whole idea behind this trend report, right, Catherine, is that your clients and those you serve, if they want to stay relevant or stay future thinking, kind of on the cutting edge, they want to rework what they're doing or how they're doing it, even in a little way, they can access this trend report and then maybe incorporate some of these ideas into some of the changes that they're making, again, to answer what the consumers are looking for.
Yeah, very much so. So we put the trend report together. Our chefs come up with recipes for all those trends, and we take some really beautiful photographs of those. And then we kind of go on the streets and we see how they're manifesting in how restaurants are and takeaways, etc., or, you know, pubs, etc., are presenting them on menus. It's all about helping give people the tools to refresh their menus so that they really hit the mark with consumers and can, you know, garner some repeat purchase, get some kind of feet through the door, encourage spend.
Yes. Yeah, we just want that positive trajectory to continue in the business. I mean, that's really what it's all about. We just want to answer consumers' needs and keep the businesses moving forward, and everybody wins in that way. So that's very exciting. Well, what else would you like to share with our audience before we go? This is a very fascinating, I think, idea and concept that, you know, you're serving your clients, but then you're also helping your clients serve their customers.
Yes, very much so. So, I mean, we do put together tools that will give them some inspiration to do that, to make sure that they are, their menus are kind of reflecting some of the factors that are shaping consumer choices and are likely to next year. We've got pretty much all of the content on our website, bidfood.co.uk. If you look in the inspiration section under 2024 food and drink trends, you'll see all the trends in there, and the interactive report that we've got, and some of the videos of us checking out how those trends are kind of working on the high street, and all of the recipes and the photographs for the recipes that kind of support those. So a bit of inspiration there from our own chefs. I have to say the chefs got very excited about the trends this year. They gave them lots of scope for creativity. Yes. I think probably their favourite trend was the British fusion one, actually, because they found a lot to play around with on that particular trend. They came up with Chinese roast dinners with salt and pepper, roast potatoes and wok fried greens, chorizo and butter bean sausage rolls, and then bacon and egg bao buns as well for a breakfast breakfast option. So
I think any of our viewers or listeners who are hearing us during a mealtime, they're in trouble, because you have just incited a riot in the listening audience who might be hungry. They're going to be going to their local restaurant and seeing what's new and trendy, where they can find a fusion of flavors wherever they are. And I think that's really exciting. I appreciate you sharing all these really fun ideas with us. I can't wait to dive into the latest report. I looked at last year's report, and I'm excited to really unpack this year's report and find out all that's in there, and maybe try a recipe or two. That would be really fun. I'm gonna go have to check.
There are some cracking recipes there. Yeah, sweet, savory, breakfast, lunch, dinner ones, all sorts that you can try.
Oh, sounds great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Catherine. If you as listeners enjoyed this time with Catherine and got your the juices flowing in your mouth as far as your taste buds thinking about all the unique flavors, that's what we like to talk about at Future Foodcast. What's happening in the food industry? Subscribe, and so that you're informed of the next issue that's coming out, our next episode, and send us some comments about what you'd like to hear. We'd love to interact with you. Until next time, I'm Pam Line Miller.